Oh, do we have any additions or amendments to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I wanted to look at it just real quick. I wanted to add one thing that I thought I had mentioned and I might not have to you, and that was a discussion about reviewing our pricing that's on our appendix for the cemetery plots.
For the
we
pricing of
add-
the plots.
Yes.
And I actually called several cemeteries and checked their pricing for their plot prices and for their open and close. And that's in here as well.
Okay, great. Okay, I just didn't see it as a
It's
discussion item.
review of contractor and open close of
Okay,
grace
perfect. All right, great. So do we need an approval for the
for the minutes.
minutes? Did everybody have a chance to read them?
I
For
approve
the
it.
minutes?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
And I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved.
Thank you.
So, want to recognize any members of the public? Rodney, do we have anybody present?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, or let me double check. Is there anyone else on Zoom yet?
Nobody on Zoom, you might make sure that the microphone is on.
It's on now. Okay. So we don't have any members of the public, live or otherwise. So we'll move on to discussion, possible actions. Rodney, you have the resolution for the open meetings resolution? Is this the annual thing that we
Yes, ma'am.
do every year? And is it a ratification or an approval? What are we?
It's approval.
Okay.
It's the first meeting.
Okay.
And then as presented, it's the third
Wednesday.
Wednesday quarterly at
Quarterly.
11:30.
Which has been the norm.
Yes.
Has anything changed?
Just that.
The only thing that I believe has changed, is it mentioned the location in this one?
That's what I was
Oh, you know
gonna
what? I
ask.
did not change the location of this. I didn't even think, and I'm not sure if it mentions it.
I don't see it.
It does. It says 313 Cream Meadows Drive on the second page, fourth. I can change that to read,
Make that edit to the
okay.
convention center. We can always change it back if,
Well, instead of just designating, can we say, or
no,
other temporary as deemed by the village?
no, it needs to be
It
designated.
needs to be specific. Okay. All right.
We'll change, update it if we have to.
Okay.
Because eventually, Jeff may be able to provide more information on this, but when will we be transitioning back to meetings at the village hall?
The latest information I have is that we'll be here through June.
Okay.
Through May.
Okay.
So if and when that changes, we'll present the resolution again for an update.
It's all gonna depend on how fast the remodel goes and how fast the network gets up and running, but, right now it's through May.
Okay. So if someone wants to motion that with the.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution for Open Meeting Act with the change on paragraph number 4 to read the convention center.
Okay.
Okay.
And Mary, if you can sign that second page, I'm sorry.
Jack Schuster is the second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Do you want me to just sign my copy?
Yes, and then I'll give you, can I have the second page of yours, please, because I wrote on mine. Thank you. There you go. Thank you. Here, I'll give you your first.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay.
Please.
Sites Cemetery software presentation.
Yes.
Rodney.
And that's actually a gentleman named Chris that's going to be presenting on the screen.
Oh, okay. Now, is this the same software that we talked about when last we met,
Yes, ma'am.
how long ago that was? I can't even remember when we met the last time. And this is due to the fact that the software that we obtained when we opened the new cemetery or about to open the new cemetery is no longer being supported, correct?
Right. So they've actually taken that down. I have, all the reporting is in an Excel spreadsheet, and
Okay.
it's very vanilla and very
Okay.
kind of hard to read, and
So we don't even have access to
we
that
don't have
software
access to
anymore.
that module anymore. They've taken down that server, is my understanding.
Is he present, able? While he's getting that working, does anybody have any specific questions? I had, is this going to do the same thing, this type of system?
It's going
Where
to,
they can just arbitrarily say we're not supporting it and we're back to having no software again? Do you know?
I don't know that this is a software that's specifically set up for cemeteries, so it offers more, which Chris will be able to tell
Okay.
you, but
Oh, there he is.
Hold on. Hold on, let's see.
isn't it funny when you talk to someone on the phone and then you see them?
It's not. That's not
Is that
how I
not what you
pictured them.
That's not who I was expecting. I
You
don't know.
know what?
What were you expecting?
I don't know. I think
That
someone
5G
older.
stuff we're fixing to go through is gonna make that happen on a daily basis.
Chris, can you hear us? No.
I can only hear him off his laptop, I think, is what I'm hearing.
I can hear you, but
We can't.
it's not coming through our
Speakers.
Audio. Hey, would you mind joining our Zoom meeting? I can allow you to share your screen. I'm going to send you, what's your email? Actually, I have it. I think I have it.
You should in that thing I forwarded you, Jeff, I believe.
Okay. I don't, this is the first time this computer controls a bunch more stuff. I got you. Stand by, Chris. There you go.
No problem.
We could have Cricket do tricks.
No, she doesn't do tricks. She snores is about it.
And bags.
No, she doesn't. She'll ask Paula from time to time, but she doesn't ask me.
But she always asks nicely.
Oh, she does, very quietly, and she's one spoiled critter.
by now, Chris? That's me. Great.
So are you guys staying busy with animal control? There were more, what happened to the fence on the far side of the links? Was that the horses?
I
Did
was
they
wondering
tear
what
that
happened to
fence
that. You
down?
don't know?
Or did somebody hit it
There's
over
a
the weekend?
ton of fence missing from
Yeah.
that section.
Yeah, it was kind of bent, and I thought maybe the horses had caused that, because they had been in there.
I think it's elk
Oh.
trying to
get
jump
out.
over.
Well, they were out en masse, now that the grass is getting green on the road edge, there's just tons of them.
We had an Easter egg hunt for the elementary schools yesterday. And you're hiding amongst
The horse poop.
and deer.
Don't give away chocolate eggs.
Elk and the teachers are saying,
Don't
watch
pick up
where
the brown
you walk,
eggs."
watch where you walk.
Between horses and elk.
No kidding, huh?
And
I mean-
in some of the pictures of kids hunting eggs, there's the horses in the background.
That's so funny.
So sad. Most of the elk that were on Hull Road the other day were yearlings. And those are probably the ones that were born on Cream Meadows Golf Course
Oh, probably.
year before last.
They're city elk.
They're city elk.
You know, I truly believe there's a difference between the deer here and the deer in Capitan. The deer in Capitan, they don't look for cars. They're still like wild.
They
Yeah.
have.
The ones here will actually pause.
Look and do
They
this.
have crossing guards.
The ones here watch for
Yeah,
cars.
and usually
Yeah.
one stays back and lets all the other ones go. I watch it. The behavior is really interesting.
It's crazy.
Now elk, not as
Not
streetwise.
as much.
And horses, absolutely
Yeah,
no
clueless.
street. No, they lick
How come
they
you
lick
called
the hood of
Durango,
your car.
Colorado?
Do
How come they
what?
what?
How come you called Durango, Colorado?
Because that's it was in my notes from like years ago, whoever checked prices before, that's one of the cemeteries that they called, so.
Well, similar sized community, kind of a mountain
Maybe.
community. I could see trying to compare a like for like.
Because if you start looking around, Capitan, Carrizozo, it's just I just feel like a
It's a totally
different.
different culture.
Yeah.
Carrizozo, $200 a space, $175 for opening and closing.
Capitan wasn't much more than that.
No. Unless you live out of town.
Yeah, unless you're not a resident.
Yeah. You know why they did that, right?
Because people were filling up their,
People from Ruidoso were going over there,
yeah.
Oh,
and they passed a non-resident
huh.
fee.
So they wouldn't run out of space.
Well, you want to move forward? and
Yeah,
if he
let's,
comes back
that,
on?
we'll do that. So let's go on to item number C, review of contractor and open and close of graves. We have a nice little packet here, which is great. And I just wanted this brought forward for two reasons. I know on an annual basis, we have to renew that contract with the vendor that is supplying the opening and closing. And I believe it's still.
It is Ron.
Ronnie Zumwalt. And I just wanted to see, and it's interesting, and I'm glad you included that on just not only the pricing, but the opening and
Who's-
closing.
right.
Because in many of these municipalities, the municipality themselves are doing the opening and closing. And I know at the very beginning, we talked about that. But what kind of stimulated me to think about that again is when I drove by Forest Lawn and I saw equipment parked up in the back being, I think it was probably just there to keep it somewhere. There was like a dump truck and a backhoe or something there parked for a while. But I still wonder why we can't, when we own the equipment, provide our own opening and closing as a village and have to even go out to a third-party vendor. And because we have crews that do stuff on the weekends in the village, they're out and about and doing things, so I know that we use our workforce. I don't know if anybody else had any input. It just seems like we keep having to raise the rates, and what I'm hearing from people, it's not just, when you start to talk about the cost of a burial, number one, it's a hard time in everybody's life, but expenses, a lot of times you're gonna have health expenditures and a lot of things that come up, and I think as my personal feeling to serve our community is to try to keep our costs as reasonable as we can for the citizens. That's my point of view. So if there's things that we can do by tweaking our cost of burial, our cost of plots, and also our costs of doing the opening and closings, I think we should be reviewing that. Does anybody have any input there? Opinions?
And the money that we've generated so far is going to do what?
Hello, everyone. Sorry about that.
We need some more land or some
Correct.
improvements or something?
Correct. It's to go toward capital expenditures for the
And do we have any,
existing
so the software we're talking about and the other stuff that's coming up is going to be coming out of that expenditure?
I think that is the proposal, yes. And the whole point about setting money aside is to not have a recreation of what happened with Forest Lawn, where you get to the point where you don't have a cemetery. And the good thing about the Gavilan Cemetery is it's so big, and we did such good planning and such a good layout, and we had that generous donor that gave us the land. It's going to be a long time before I don't think any of us are going to be around when they have a problem with that cemetery being full. But we also want to leave them, whoever that committee be, with monies should they have to procure, because we saw how hard it was to get this cemetery done.
Can you hear me now, Jeffrey?
Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Are we
Sorry
ready?
about that. Can everyone hear me okay?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, Melissa. Hello,
Hey, Chris.
Rodney. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Sorry about that. So let me make sure you can see my screen, so give me 1 second to make sure I have that shared. How's everyone's day going?
Good. How's yours?
Peachy. Getting ready for Easter and all the things that entail family Easter. So I am doing well. Okay, open system preferences. Sorry that our normal system wasn't working for you audio-wise, so I'm just trying to adjust all my settings now to make this work. So this should work. Okay, system preferences, allow, screen share. All right, you should be able to see my screen now, correct?
Yes.
Great.
Okay, perfect. So I will start with telling you a little bit more about SEM sites. And then again, obviously, thank you all for your time. And then after I go ahead and tell you about SEM sites, based on my conversation with Melissa, it sounds like me showing you like the general workflow of how SEM sites work today, and then the public-facing side is what is most pertinent to show, and then any nitty-gritty details I would be happy to expand upon, but for the sake of time, I would just wait till we get to the end of the demonstration to ask those questions, and then if we do need to set up a second meeting or conversation as a group or individually, I'd be happy to accommodate you in that way. Does that sound like a good agenda for everyone today?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That sounds great.
Okay, perfect. So as far as SEM Sites, the company, we were founded in 2012. out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in a town called Perryopolis by Pittsburgh. We have a founder named Scott. He founded the company on the principle that, workflow is, very important, so it's user friendliness, but just having the security of knowing that your records are going to be stored in the cloud in a place that will always be safe, and you will always be able to access your records at any time to download them as reports. So basically, us not holding your data hostage is a very important thing for cemeteries, and that there are different cemeteries that have different needs. So we based our cemetery, building process around modules. So if there's people that just need the record keeping, the mapping, and the public facing side like yourselves, we can provide that to you without having to do like levels or tiers. We would just focus on those modules that contain those parts of the software that you need the most. So as far as, size-wise, we do have over 360 clients, which encompasses around 800 to 900 cemeteries across the U.S., Canada, and now a couple other countries. But that being said, again, we are made right here in America, outside of Pittsburgh, PA. So we do like to let people know if you do partner with SemSites, you will be, putting that money towards funding of a company that, does put a high emphasis on being able to track veterans in your cemetery. So we'll give you a piece within the core software to do that, as well as employing veterans within our own organization. As far as where your secure data will be stored, it will be stored in 3 different servers across the U.S. So basically one in the East Coast, one in Central Time, and one in West Coast. I believe there's a 4th that we recently partnered with, but I know 3 for sure, so I'll leave it at 3 for now. And it will back up every 20 minutes. So basically, to keep that simple, if you go into SemSites and you enter some information, it will back up within 20 minutes and save, and then push to the servers within an hour or 2. So that way, if anything should happen to your computers or anything to where, anything should happen, again, it will be backed up to one of those servers. And if something should happen to one of those large server locations, it will mirror to the next server. So it's, we've never had a problem with it over the past, 8 years. We've been in existence 9 years now, and we do pay to keep them very secure. So if you need any more information about that process, I'd be happy to answer those at any given point in time. And something that we do emphasize with our partner support is SemCare, which basically means that, we're going to give you a client advocate that will train you on the software, reach out to you biannually to make sure you're getting the most out of it, you understand everything, and actually, see what parts of the software you're using most and answer any questions at that time. And then, of course, you can actually reach out to that client advocate at any time with emails or calls if you have questions. And that is all just included with the partnership. There is no hourly fee of $100 or $200 or anything like that for you to reach out to us, or for maintenance, or for updates. The only thing we would charge you for is for adding new software or anything like that. So that's a good general summary of SemSites. Does anyone have any questions on the company before I get into the demonstration portion?
When you say other charges for added software, what are we buying?
So today, like I mentioned, I'm going to show you the website and how that can link to your city, the actual core, how to do records and everything that goes into that, and your mapping. And then if there's anything in the future you need as far as accounts receivable or sales, or if we develop a new module that we think might be of interest to you, or if you want us to build something specifically for your cemetery, all those are possibilities that we could do if you have an interest in those.
So if there's upgrades to your software, is any of this stuff going to be mandatory that if we don't get it, the software's not going to work?
The only thing that you have to have for SemSites to work is the core record keeping, which is called our secure CRM for cemetery record management. It's basically, as we go through the demonstration, it's what's going to house your customer records, your burial records, your contact records, your dashboard you see in front of us, which houses all your simple reports, your notes, and your work orders, because that's where all the data pulls from information-wise. Mapping, lot viewing, the website portion, accounts receivable, anything like that is all optional. So you can start with just, like I said, what you need, whatever you dub most important, and then add the rest over time. Or you can start out with as much as you need up front. It just depends on your level of need and where you want to go from there. That's all.
So Chris, this is kind of an à la carte type situation where you have your kind of your mandatory core that you have to have with that
Correct.
cost, that set fee. And then you add the different modules according to what you want and what suits your needs. And then
Correct.
there's additional, are these monthly costs? Or is this a upfront cost? And I think the question we were trying to derive was if it is an upfront cost where we customize for what we need for our cemeteries, then as those modules get tweaked, and I know that happens, that's just what happens, are there charges for those software changes and those upgrades to what we've already purchased?
So, yes, so there is no charges for any maintenance or any updates. Again, if you wanted us to add something that you don't currently have access to in the way of something new, or if you want us to build you something new that would be beneficial to you, like let's say you have all your standard reports, but you would need one extra thing added to pull all your residents and anyone that's a resident versus a non-resident, and you want us to just make a button to pull that report, that would be something that they would charge you, whatever the fee might be to add something like that. So as far as like a general update to your mapping from like what it looks like now to what it might look like in 5 years, that's not something to my knowledge that we've done to anybody that I know of.
Okay, and after you do the demonstration, are you going to go through the costs after that? Is that your plan? Okay.
Yeah, so I can give you a ballpark estimate, and then for me to get everything approved and give you to exact dollar amount with a line-by-line per module quote, I just have to get it approved, so it standardly takes me about 5 business days to get that done, so I can provide that to Melissa or anyone else that needs it 5 days from today, basically. So I can give you a ballpark figure of what that would cost. I can give you the annuals, like what the annual cost should be pretty accurately today. And you mentioned monthly versus annually, or just if there is a monthly fee, I believe, actually. And there will be a one-time cost to build the software. And then after that, there would be an annual fee to store the data in the servers. And then it's called your user license fee. And then the only other one that you would incur for your software that you're interested in would be the hosting fee to host our information on the city website, because we have to connect with it. So that's just the standard fee that we charge regardless of the size or anything like that. So I can give you those today once we look at it all. So those are great questions. Any other questions beyond those main topics?
And what about the capabilities for the computers on the user end? As you adjust your software and make changes to your software, are there going to be requirements that the computers have to have, standards that they have to meet?
Yeah. Yes, that's a great question. So since we're cloud-based, there's nothing you have to download onto your computers to make it work, so we're not device-dependent between a Mac or a PC or anything like that, or the year to date. It just depends on your internet speed, basically. That's all.
Okay, if you want to go
So if
ahead.
there's no other...
Yeah, go ahead and move forward with your presentation, and then I'm sure there'll be some other questions.
Yes, absolutely. So what we're looking at right now is our dashboard. It basically stores all your reports. So I actually have the more updated version right here. So how the dashboard works is you can actually go in and you can select what piece of information you want. We call them widgets. It's just a measured metric of data. So like if you want to be able to see, how many available pieces of property you have, you can see that at a glance. If you want to add, things that are unavailable or whatever, you can take those certain columns off of your map. And how I got that one report on here and all of these reports is all you have to do is add widget. And it will now give you a list of all the widgets you have at your disposal. So if you want to search one, you could do that. And then it'll bring up all the, reports with that key category or word. And then if you wanted to just pick one, like if I wanted to add, reminders or weather, you would just hit add widget, and then it will go ahead and generate it on this main feed. So if you want 6 different reports on one screen, you could look at it like this. Or if you wanted to combine them all into one big screen and look at them in multiple tabs, you could do it that way as well. So it just depends on how you want to see it. So this is how all your reports are going to generate for the cemetery, is going to be right here. The next portion is the calendar. So if I go to over here, this is going to show me again, what activity I may have. So if you want to keep track of meetings with families, any mailables or taxes or openings, closings, repairs, anything like that, it can all be generated on this calendar, and we can do it by user if you need more than one person in at the exact moment. So basically, a lot of cemetery year size may have 1 or 2 users, and the users, again, are what we call our user licenses. So basically, if you would need 2 people, if you believe in the software at any given time simultaneously, we would bill you for 2 users. If you need 10 different people to have access, but they're not going to need at the same time, you could use 1 profile. It just depends on how many you need. So there's not a limit or a minimum. It just depends on your need. What you can do from here, again, is if I click into the calendar, it's going to just show me, again, what I have planned, any summary notes, a completion date if I put it in there, and then a reminder if I want it set to remind me on a Google Gmail or Outlook calendar mail, whatever you might have. And then after you hit save with the resolution note, it will go ahead and cross it out to let you know it was completed if you have more than 1 person referencing your calendar. From here, I would like to go over general workflow, how to actually find an existing record. So if Melissa was in there right now and she was looking for an existing record, I could go and I could just type in any name I wanted to in this global search bar. So let's say if I just do the first 3 letters of any last name, I'll just do McGill. It will start to generate the record types for all of my McGills, in addition to the McGlens, the McGowans, and the McGarveys. So my whole point in showing you that is to illustrate that we are not case sensitive. So you don't have to type in the exact same case, like uppercase, lowercase, uppercase for McGill, and it will deny your search or anything like that. So if I type in John McGill, for example, and that's one individual specifically I want to find, it'll generate all records with him. And as you can see, there's a couple of the same type with the same name, so you would just defer to the address, the state, or the phone number to find the one you want. And then what these icons actually mean are the Rolodex icon right here is going to be your contact record, your $sign is going to be your customer record, and your headstone is going to be your burial record. If it's like a clean slate like this, 9 out of 10 times that means it's reserved, so there wouldn't be any other contacts, but if it's filled out, that would mean that someone is, interred in the cemetery, and it's not a reserved location, it's a occupied location. Now, I'd like to show you how to generate these, and it's pretty simple. So if we shift from an existing record to a brand new record, I would be Chris coming to you today. I would go to contact information, and I would do add new contact, and it will generate that first icon for you, that Rolodex icon. So all you have to do on the cemetery side is enter a name. So I'll just enter my name. Then I will go ahead and put in a phone number. It's 123, and whatever email you want. And you can, as you can see, it will start to generate pre-existing emails. So like if you do one that's same first few letters or a family member with the same address, you can just pre-populate that. And then once I feel comfortable that this is everything that I want in there, you can make a couple of different decisions after you hit save. You can promote me to a customer if I am ready to go ahead and purchase property today and I want to pick that out. Or if you just want to take a note here at the bottom under notes and put in interested in section 1, lot 12, grave 5, for example, and add that note. It will do 2 things. On the right, where it says activity, it will update what you did in the system. This is your activity log to allow you to know exactly who and is in the system and what they're doing, and timestamp it to the minute. And then for that note that you see down here, you can edit it if you want, but again, it will timestamp it to the day it was saved and tell you just, again, whatever pertinent information you needed for the note. So if I leave the office today and you don't see me for another year and I call you and say, hey, I would really like to buy that piece of property we looked at last year, you can know exactly which one and tell them whether it's available or not within a couple seconds. That being said, if it is the demonstration's sake of actually wanting to purchase property today, you can hit promote to customer. And now, in addition to that first record type, the contact record, it will generate your customer record. So if it's just me, you would start by selecting property, but if it is a situation where I'm buying multiple property, you could go ahead and create contact from customer. If it's my wife, for example, and there's multiple people in front of me or on the phone, And when I do create contact from customer, it will go ahead and generate all of my pre-entered information, and I can just change it to my wife's name. So let's do Lisa, and let's do her phone number is one off, and hit save again. And now if I simply hit the back arrow, it will go ahead and generate on the list. My name was already there as the owner because I made the record, and now it will default to purchaser for my wife. And then from here, you can just change it to whatever the actual relation is. So executor, owner, father, mother, wife. We'll pre-populate this list for you, but if you ever want to add to it, you can add to any drop-down within the software and a number of other locations. So the software is pretty autonomous. Once we give it to you, you can go in there and you can, edit anything that we've, given you access to. There are some things that we would need to change if you wanted them changed, but, I'll try to illustrate as much as I can in the time constraints of what you can change yourself. So
Do we have
now that I've gone ahead and done that,
I'm sorry,
sorry.
Chris, hang on, we have a question.
Do we have a way to see these different lots in relation to a map? Because you give a
Yeah.
description of a plot and et cetera, but let's say someone comes in to see her and she says, I want the one over there by that second road by that tree. Can
Yeah.
she then see a map and see if that lot's available by the map
Yeah.
color in relationship to this software?
yes. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's say if I wanted to go to property, so I'm just going to pause in the process I'm doing and just go directly to mapping. So I'm going to click property and then map overview. And then now we can make it so by section, for example. So if somebody wanted something in section 1 or whatever your structure is,
Right.
we'll take the mapping that Melissa sent me, row, thank you, that she sent me already, and we will go ahead and we will place pins in each grave. And how we'll do that is if I hit show overlay, we'll take that paper reference you're going to give us, we'll stretch it out, digitize it over top of here, so that way you as the people in charge of the cemetery can see where each lot is within the cemetery. So each pin on here is going to be designated as a certain amount of graves. Again, I don't have the map in front. I do have the map in front of me. It looks like for a lot of your rows within your blocks, it's around 10 graves, if I'm not incorrect.
There's 20, there's
So-
10 on top and 10 on bottom, so,
10 on top and 10 on bottom.
yes.
Okay. So then we could have a couple of different options. So if we did lot level mapping, which is what we're looking at right now, and I click this pin, this green one, which means there's available graves within this, this row or this lot, we would have a graveside reference, which is called our visual lot viewer. So the pins on top of here, would be each individual lot that you have available to sell marked green, occupied completely as red, and someone in there is reserved for blue. But once you click that actual pin in that location, it will go ahead and bring up your graveside reference, which will show you exactly who is where for occupied locations and who has bought that property, and a link to their records. So the burial record for Dorothy, the customer record for Eugene, and again, the same thing, of course, if it's reserved, and then for available, it will be green, and you could put no name listed, for example. And then if you click into there, it will bring and generate a burial record to which you could immediately fill. And this tool right here will also be located in your burial record and your customer record, so you can do it from the map if you like, or if you wanted to do it from a customer record or a burial record, and again, based off the notes, exactly which piece of property they own, you can add it directly from there without having to go to the map. But both are options. Now, the next question most people ask is, if you just want to find someone by name on the map, how do you do that? So I would go in here to map searching, and now you would be able to look by a specific location if you wanted to, and then of course veteran status, as we mentioned, that is something we want you to be able to search and make it important. But if you just wanted to type in a name, for demonstration's sake, I'll type in McGill again, and it will generate the location of all my McGills with these pins and these lot locations. And then if I wanted to do June and hit enter, it will now show me specifically the location of June. So block, lot, and the grave number. And then if I click her name or if I click this pin, it will now open up 2, show me everyone else that is there, and highlight in gold where June actually is. And then if you have more than one person in the grave, we can also denote that right here and make it to where you can generate drop downs for that. So if you ever do cremations in a single grave or double depth burials, you can just click the name, and you can make even more denotion like top, bottom, top right corner, bottom left corner next to the name, so you know exactly where that person is in relativity to that grave. And then again, here's their date, location, a link to the customer and the buried person within that location. Any questions on the mapping portion and how it's tied to the lot viewer? Or you can actually have these separate. So if you per se didn't want mapping, you could have just lot viewer, or didn't want to have lot viewer, you could just have mapping. So these are two separate modules actually, but they do, just work in tandem and make things a little bit easier depending on your preference.
So all of these features you're showing us are separate modules. What comes in the core package that you sell the mandatory secure CRM?
Everything up until I got, everything up until I got to mapping and this piece right here. So everything before these two.
So you could still do it through the consumer portal, or the part where you open the account and put in the data that way. That's included in the base?
It wouldn't go to the mapping though, would it?
No. But he's
No,
saying the mapping
that's
is a
correct.
separate module.
So isn't that, isn't that one of the big issues when you have people come in?
Yes. Trying to find a lot, trying to
Yeah,
find their
where's
loved
Bubba?
ones,
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah.
basically, is there a module between what you were showing us and the mapping module?
So yes, so what I showed you before we switched to this screen over here, which is called mapping, was the core system. Like everything that I showed you up until we got to this screen was core. And then I'm going to go back and just fill out that record so you can see how the workflow works there. But this would be its own module because we have to take your paper reference, we have to generate the overlay, and then we have to plot out where all those people are. So that's why it's its own module. And then, again, once we have that all plotted out, and then if you wanted to pull a specific location, like lot number 72 or block number 72, and you wanted to find this information, this would be the second module, which is called our visual lot viewer.
So the only other
Yes,
way.
So those would be
The only other way to research would be for her to go in. She'd have to know basically the legal description for that existing plot, or look under the name, and it would give a legal description, and then she would have to refer to her own plot plan if she didn't have this module, and try to figure out where that location is. Correct?
Correct. I think I understand you for the most part. So yeah, so basically, to put it in my words, if she had just the core system, so if I just go back a little bit and I go to type in my name, so the one that we generated a second ago, so Chris Quo, and it has my contact record and my customer record that I generated before, and if I click into customer record, now if I wanted to pick property without mapping, and I was using my plot plan as a reference, but then I wanted to go in here and just pick the property, I could hit attach burial rights, and then pick, again, my structure. So for example's sake, I'm going to just say 94, because I know that's open. We'll pick two graves together, and then now you can mark this as reserved for me, for Chris, and then my wife, Lisa. If it's at need, I can actually go ahead at this point and mark hers as occupied if the service is soon, and hit save. And now within this customer record, it will go ahead and show me with the lot viewer, if you have that module, exactly where I am in relativity to those 20 graves. So number 3 and 4 right next to each other. And then again, my name, my wife's name, the link to her burial record. These are both my same customer record that we're in now. And then if you need to do anything with these other previously existing souls, like if you need to change, if you're in here and you notice Jane David has a death date of 11/1/2004, but you know that's wrong, and it's actually 2003. We'll just make it easy. You can just hit save, and you can change that existing record. But then if you also want to add another grave and they want to purchase another grave, like right now, you can actually hit quick add, and you can go ahead and put in the next person's name, and my information is the customer, and then hit update or save, and it will change the color of this grave to reserved for blue or red for occupied if it's at need. So that's how it works in tandem, again, with the visual lot viewer. And some other things that this is good for is as you go over time, you add more graves, you can have this verified button, and when you're sure that this is actually, what's available and what's unavailable in that 20 grave location, you can hit yes, and then it will basically allow you to make sure you know that you're never going to double sell anything. And within SemSites, it's pretty much impossible to do that anyway, because when I actually selected these 2 graves, it only allows me to pick property that is marked available. Because a lot of cemeteries do have the issue of asking, the question to themselves, how are we going to make sure we're not double selling property? And within SemSites, again, once you mark it as occupied or reserved, it can't go back into available inventory to even sell. So that's how, again, everything up until mapping works. And then if you want to finish out the process of filling out Lisa Quo's burial record, you can either click her number or her name. So I'll just click her name, and now it'll bring me to her burial record, where it will generate her deceased information. So again, I'm just going to put some numbers in here that I already put in earlier today. And then after I put in date of birth and death, it'll generate her age. I, of course, can put any other fields that you want in the software. So if you capture vault type, liner type, if you want to have relation to owner, we can put all that in there. If you have anything extra, we can generate those fields, no problem. And then there's also a location for service information, heritage information for genealogy purposes, work orders, which are useful for just making sure you're keeping track of openings and closings, and if you work in tandem with anyone that is specifically responsible for that, or if you just want to give it to your funeral homes, I can walk through that process. It takes a little bit longer to explain, but only a couple minutes, so just let me know. Also your military information. So once you check this box, you'll be able to pull a full report of all your veterans within the cemetery. Your next of kin, again, the visual lot viewer to show me where Lisa, my wife, is located, and a way to rearrange these if you ever need to change the order in the future, or if you want to add more graves onto these 20 grave locations. You can do both those things, again, right from here, or print it out to give to a family. And then this is the public website facing portion. So basically, whenever you enter that service information, or you enter a copy of the obituary right here where it says obituary, or upload a photo of the deceased, or a headstone, or a marker, and you click this display online button, it will then push to what I'm going to show you next, which is the public facing side. So this is all stored in one place. So that way, when you're done and you click save any information, and then you hit display online, it's meant to push directly from this software into your tab, basically, or screen that we're going to generate for you, so people can find loved ones, so that you don't have to go to 2 different places to enter information. Because we want to keep it simple, we want to make it a turnkey solution, so you have to do the least amount of work to make it as effective as possible. And then the only other thing on here of note that I would bring up is the private file section, which is in here, and the customer record, which goes ahead and allows me to enter any copies of existing deeds, photos of deceased, again, pictures of headstones. You can put whatever you want in here, and you can take those photos directly from a mobile device and put them into the record. So any of this software is accessible from, like I said, any device. So if you want to make this experience, for someone as easy as possible on your end and theirs, and you want to walk the cemetery grounds with them with a tablet and enter their information while also showing them the location, you can get all that done. You can save anything on here as a PDF and email it to them to go, as paperless as you can, or you can print out a deed from this screen as well if you want to generate automated paperwork. So that being said, and then again, obviously on the left, here's some more fields for drop downs for the burial type. So cremation, burial, double depth, mausoleum, columbarium, anything of that nature. We can always track it and make it easier for you to find. And then if you're asking me, how can I see some general reports for the things you've shown me today, you could go to, if I went to property, or if I went to customers, I'll just click property for now. It'll bring up all my property within the cemetery, and it'll allow me to actually change the report. So if I don't want to see everything on the report I'm about to print out, and I just want literally the section number, the status, but I don't want the customer information. I just want the deceased, and I want the status first. You can organize it however you want it to be pulled to make it customized to you. So that being said, if you did want to see a veterans report, you would just do veterans yes, status occupied because they're in the cemetery, and then you can do like descending or ascending order to see where they are in relativity to your cemetery. So make it a lot easier to plant flags, to engage with your American Legion, if that's who works with you for placing flags now, whatever group you want to engage better with, and give them an easier way to find who they need to locate. So that all being said, before we move on to the public-facing side, are there any questions on the mapping or the core software itself?
On the mapping, if you are a municipality that has more than one cemetery, like Ruidoso does, but the other cemetery doesn't really have plots for sale, it's pretty much sold out. All of that precursor isn't really advantageous, but the mapping would be advantageous. Is there a way to get the ability to map the other cemetery as far as just being able to have the records there more for the well, not just for the public, but for the village, but not to the degree, that a brand-new cemetery would have. Does that make sense? I mean, a brand-new cemetery, you're going to have a lot of plots that need to be sold that are not occupied, aren't even purchased. Whereas an existing cemetery, they're all purchased for the most part. You may have some burials and some empty plots, but they're already purchased. So it's just more a matter of who is the occupant, who is the owner, and then the public being able to find locations.
Wouldn't that really be a cost issue, though? Would we want to spend that money?
That's
for
what
that?
I'm wondering. I mean, do you offer any kind of, is it just a flat fee for that module, whether you're going to be able to use all the bells and whistles or just only a portion of it? How do you guys address things
No,
like that?
that's a great question. Yes, that is a great question. So as far as the data goes, because I'm not a coder, so I can't get too much into the technical details of how it pulls and things like that. But from what my personal knowledge is basically we build the software, whether it's for one or multiple cemeteries, the same way. So it's still going to pull all the information the same. Now, if you're asking for something very specific, like I can talk to production and see what we can come up with if we think there'd be a way to only give you some of the features, but my gut instinct is telling me, SemSites was built to make it for historical cemeteries, active cemeteries, pet cemeteries, municipalities, all the same, or not all the same, but like the core functionality is still going to work for you. So, we can make it to where you have access to both cemeteries from the mapping and the records and put it all in one system and not separate it into reporting or anything like that. But as far as what the cost would be, like I said, when I get a chance to line item it out, I can give you, both options. I could give you what just the one Gavilan cemetery would cost by itself versus the cost with adding your second cemetery. And I can put that together to show you exactly what it would cost. But if you're asking me if it would be substantially less money, I mean, it wouldn't be double the price, but it wouldn't be nothing. I think that's the safe answer.
But I'm saying, would you have to have two individual cores? And I guess that's something you're going to have to determine.
No.
So
you would not. You would not.
On an existing cemetery, so what we're doing now, we're giving individual records as we sell the plots. And so that then grows that relational database into something that interacts with maps and everything else. But on the other side, if we had an existing cemetery that's full, we still have to have those existing plots identified. So do you have does your software have the ability to input CSX files or any kind of other relational database into your software? So if you sent something to Melissa and she filled out this spreadsheet that said, here's 500 people that are in the cemetery now, would it import into your software instead of having those to be entered one at a time?
Yes. So basically, if that was the route you wanted to go, I could send you like an example of our template, and you would just go into Excel yourself, and you would start to, enter the records into, the template if you want to do that, or if you want to start like tomorrow and you wanted to start building an Excel sheet and then just copy and paste from those rows into ours after I send you an example, then we can migrate that over for you. It would just depend on how many records you have for me to figure out a cost. So like it would cost something different if you had 100 records versus 10,000 records. You know what I mean? 'Cause that just dictates how much time we have to take to import it. But we can definitely do it so you do not have to do one at a time if you don't want to.
Okay.
The thing I will say as far as existing information for burials, like if I was to go to a random person on this list, like I'm just going to click a name. If she was, Melissa was going to go sit there today and enter, 20 records with names and existing people, she could just hit quick add for those 20 people and start plugging the information in here. So that way you don't have to do it twice. So you don't have to do it in Excel and then you don't have to do it in here. But if you want to go the route of just putting in all Excel and then having us migrate it in, that's no problem. We do it all the time. But if you wanted to use the visual lot viewer to just click these quick add buttons and put this information in that sense, she could also do that too. It just depends on what you value as a better option. That's all. I don't want to push you either way.
Okay. And I guess you're going to discuss
Okay.
the public viewing. When she enters, I had a question, and that's just,
Yeah.
you were talking about her entering, personal data in like ethnicity and things for genealogy. Is there a way, I would assume that's not done without the family's permission, correct? You ask if they want that data
Correct.
collected?
Yeah.
And then we would
Yeah.
also have
Yes.
the ability to prevent the public from accessing that, should the family not want that publicly? Address that.
Yes.
Because
So if-
that would be an issue, I would think, privacy.
Yes, so you don't have to push any information from our software to your website mandatorily. We have a button right here that says display online. It's designated specifically for that purpose. So anytime a family talks with you and they don't want the service information pushed from our software into the website, you can fill this out so you still personally as an organization know what's going on. But then you don't have to have the public know. You would just hit display online, no, and then it would not push any of this information to a public-facing side. But then when the family's ready, or if they have a change of heart, you would just push yes, and then it will push this from your core software and your record to the public-facing side for your service information. Again, an obituary or any photos, if you wanted to do a marker or a photo of the deceased. Those are the two locations of where you enter it, right here and right here, and those are the things that would push to the website if that's what the family wishes. If they don't, it'll default to no, don't touch anything, it'll be fine, but if you want to display it, just click yes. That's all it takes.
And so it's an all or nothing, public or not, or just those real particular pertinent information that you would hit the yes or no toggle to? In other words, say a family, the person in charge of the burial, the spouse, doesn't want a lot of that personal stuff, but yet would like aunts and uncles and great-grandkids to be able to look online and see where grandma's buried. So if you hit no, you can't even do that with the mapping program on the public side? It's an all or nothing, no record would be found? Is that what you're saying?
No. So, hold on. I think demonstrating it now would be the point where it would make more sense, as opposed to continuing, if we're done with the core part
Sure.
of the software.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So from here, I have on my screen a few different examples of integration to city websites we've done. So I will go ahead and bring up Benson City Cemetery, for example. So the way that this actual visual of this is built is customer per customer. So I'll show you a couple different options and the color scheme and, what the wording is and what these things, where they are and what they mean. That's kind of client for client. But the things that will hold true will be your recent interments, your upcoming burials, and a way for you to actually locate your loved one.
Okay.
So if I put in Smith, and then I wanted to see some more information about any of these Smiths, like Larry Smith, Dorothy, anything like that, or Russell Edmondson, who's about to be recently interred, I can click his name, or I can hit visit, and then obviously it'll pop up here with their name of where they are within the cemetery. But if I want to see more information, like for Russell, and I click his name, that is where it will go ahead and open up. If you have that picture of the memorial or the deceased or the headstone or marker right here within the record, and then under that, again, where they're located, and then if there's anything else special you want us to do, we can have a conversation about it, see if it would take enough time for us to incur more of a cost, or just kind of add it in there. So that's where it gets down to like the technology and the coding portion and figuring out what you specifically need. So this family, I can tell you, for example, wanted like the photo of the deceased headstone, obviously in there with the date of birth and date of death. So that's all they entered into the record, and then they hit display online, and that's why you see this piece and this piece of the software. So they didn't put in an obituary or anything else. They just
Okay.
kept it to this information because that's what the family wanted.
Okay.
So
Does that all make sense?
that picture of that headstone came from the family?
You have two different options. This cemetery got it from the family, but some people will have people go out, whether it's on staff, volunteers, again, many different options, and they'll have them go out with like a tablet or a phone and take a picture of the headstone and then just upload it directly into the record.
So
And you can do that at any given time. Yeah.
in the instance where we have people that want to see mom or dad's headstone after it's been delivered and set up, are we going to provide that
Correct.
service for free?
No, that's a whole different.
So that's my question. I mean,
Yeah.
there's where are these pictures coming from?
Well, the family, he's just saying that the family can go out there and say, I'd like this online. They take the picture, they supply it to the village, and the village can upload it.
So in this particular case, we're looking at a headstone here. Let's say that's been taken by the family, and then they send it to our staff, and they put it on the website?
It's just,
They just put it directly into the burial
Family's
record,
doing
and then
it
you hit
themselves.
display
But
online
the
and it
family
pushes to
can
the
do it
website.
themselves? So the family can go into
The
this
family
website?
cannot, but you can.
no,
Oh, the
Okay.
family cannot, but we can?
they can send it, and then
Yes.
then they would upload the photograph,
Melissa
just
would
like
do it.
an upload.
Yeah, I'm
Correct,
just trying to
into the
figure out
slot.
when Melissa going to get the time to do all this.
Yeah. But they can do it.
Correct.
Okay, it's there. But,
No kidding.
so it can come
No
from either
kidding.
place.
Well, that's just,
Okay.
Time consuming.
it is. I mean, I agree with
Yeah.
all this.
Because you don't, oh yeah, because you just don't want people willy-nilly uploading whatever they want to your website
No.
either.
Exactly.
You know. Exactly, yeah.
We'd have
So
all
that's how
sorts
that
of
would
stuff
work.
instead of people's pictures.
I'm
getting
sorry.
uploaded.
Yes, yes, yes. Another option on a couple of things you'll see on here is like our Keepsake Memorial. So if I was to pull this up, if you did have a family that wanted to, where is it at? Hold on. Find the right one. If you did want to work with the family to provide them a space of like a place to put something that's exclusively theirs, so like a screen that has like a description of the family in the past or like a family tree or something that they can edit themselves and they can upload and pay for that service. We have something on here called Keepsake Memorials, and I'm trying to find the one that I want to show you off the top of my head. And I'll say it to be this one, but basically it's just a page where people can go and they can find a loved one, and they'll have information on there. It will have like different things. So like basically if you wanted to have the family have the ability to go in there and upload whatever they want, and they pay for the right to do that, you can obviously screen it and deny anything that they don't want to do, but it would basically provide another service that you can offer for the community to do that if you wanted to. Again, if that sounds like too much work, it's not something you want to mess with, I don't want to go through the trouble of showing it to you if that was, a concern, but I just wanted to let you know that is an option of something we can do. And the other thing I was trying to show you before I went down that conversational piece was over here. of how the walk the site works when you're actually trying to find a loved one and you want to type it in. So this cemetery did like burial location, and we built this whole like website for them. So once you hit burial locator and you click that button, it's going to go ahead and it's going to bring up again the map, the fields on how to find someone. So if I type in Smith, I'm going to do that right now. Now I want Dorothy Smith, who's right here. So it'll tell you the name, the location, whether they're a veteran or not, date of birth, death, you know, all that good stuff, and a way to visit her specific page, and then show you, you know, again, where she is. So she's right here in this 20 grave lot, and we'll just pin it to the middle of the lot, and then if there's a picture of the headstone, they know exactly where to go. But if I want to visit her information and see that, I can click her name, or I can hit visit. And then once I do that, if someone hops on their cell phone, so this cemetery had their staff do it, but like I said, the other one had families strictly only send it to them, so you can go either route. But like once the family's actually here in the cemetery and you tell me, all right, from the flagpole to wherever they're located is where I want the origin point is. So basically the starting point. And if I'm in the cemetery and on my phone and I want to find Dorothy, my great aunt Dorothy, all I have to do is open my phone and hit find loved one. And then again, it will take you from your origin point. So this is their David Cemetery's main office, but yours might be the flagpole for Gallenland. And then it will take you to the lot of where Dorothy is located. So from a public side, so you don't have to worry about as many phone calls or as many people asking for things, you know, this is where this would be helpful to actually helping someone find a lot where a loved one's located. And if they wanted to send you a picture of the headstone or the loved one or whatever it was, you know, it just makes it a lot easier on the family and it makes it easier on you and takes less of your time. So that's my whole reason pointing that out. I don't want to over-explain. I just want to make it as simple as I can. And obviously, if you're not in the cemetery, it can still give you driving directions underneath that. Any questions on that, ladies and gentlemen?
Nope.
No.
Okay. So if there's no other questions on the software, like I said, I can give you a ballpark figure today. When me and Melissa had talked, we had mentioned maybe just focusing on the first cemetery, which is the newer one, Gavilan. If that's still the decision, we can talk about that. Or did you want me to try to give you a better idea as if we did both? Like, what are the thoughts on that?
And I had mentioned it would be easier starting with the new cemetery because there's only 120 lots.
That's all I wanna do.
You know, this is all fine and good, but I can walk over 120 and find out where Bubba's at.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that big an issue to have all of these different things. I'm thinking about down the road, if somebody came in and wanted, that would make a lot of sense. But there's a lot of, this is a starship compared to what we need, isn't it?
So your basic package, what is it that, Melissa, you thought you needed?
Yeah.
You have to have the core, obviously.
Right. I like the mapping. I like to be able, whenever someone comes in and asks where somebody is, I think it's a good idea to be able to show them that. To be able to upload the deeds or the paperwork to each owner or to the deceased, I feel like is also a good idea. And being able to have their information and a picture of the headstone, I think is awesome.
And for me, my opinion is it's even more valuable to add, although it's a lot, it would be a lot of work, is to add
Forest
lawn. Because once you've inputted and uploaded everything, it would take you.
Your mic's
Your
not
mic's not on.
funny.
It would literally take you a minute to research something that takes us. We have to look at a ledger book and index cards
And maps.
Well-
and a deed file and.
My question, that's why I was asking the question about, you know, downloading it in Excel and them downloading it into the, would the basic stuff that you want, Rodney, from Forest Lawn, would just be who's that plot, you know, who's there when they were interred, et cetera, et cetera. The rest of this stuff, as far as gravestones, pictures and things like that, aren't really or whether or not do we really want the plat map from Forest Lawn?
I think
Or do you want it more
that it
for
would
just the
be
records?
both.
You want
If you're
both?
gonna go through the trouble of getting it for record keeping, I mean, to have a public platform for people to do the same, if they could go in and research on their own, that's saving them a step from contacting us.
How much of that are we doing?
I mean, it's limited, but whenever you, again, based on Forest Lawn, it's not an easy task.
I understand that it's not an easy task. My question is, if we have the opportunity to look at two different dollar amounts, if we look at what's gonna cost to do Gavilan and to do it right with the mapping and the pictures and everything that we want, and then what would it cost, or a ballpark figure, to do Forest Lawn? I don't disagree with doing Forest Lawn, but we're still talking about $1. And, you know, I want to see what it's going to cost, because we did Gavilan, and we can say we did it right, but the cost of going in there and putting Forest Lawn to lay out the plat, to identify, that may take several $1,000s, and I'd like to know what that is.
I hear both sides. I can see where it is beneficial. It's great for the families to be able to look things up. But my understanding from Chris is if you can get the data, I don't even think you have Forest Lawn in any kind of an Excel spreadsheet. It's on index cards and in file cabinets. From what I understood the last time we bought the program, the prior program, you got up to about the Cs, I think, in entering the
Finished
data.
C, we're starting on D. yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So you would still have to build that entire Excel spreadsheet for the old cemetery because you're not
I
gonna,
don't-
if you can't get past the Cs as busy as you guys are, I'm trying to be a realist. You guys have your hands full. It is unrealistic to think that you can sit there and enter these records one by one. It's gonna have to be built into a spreadsheet and just uploaded.
I think
That's
it's
gonna
too
be the
difficult to
simplest.
build it into a spreadsheet and upload it. It would be easier to upload it one record at a time.
How many
Well,
records are you
you know-
talking about?
I'm not sure. There's
Hundreds?
definitely hundreds.
Okay.
There are some dollars that I happen to know about that are coming under the COVID bill that our fearless leaders shoved down our throat. And they allow for monies to be spent for something like this. And I still would rather see it being two different dollar amounts, because if that's something that our town council then would want to take some of those COVID dollars and spend for a intern this summer to enter into that relational database by record, then that would be something that we wouldn't be out the budget for. You see where I'm going?
Yeah, the manpower to take to develop it. I think if we can get the $2, like you were talking about, Chris, to see, we know for the purposes of the brand-new cemetery, Melissa has told you kind of what you want, the basic package, plus the mapping, plus now you said the headstones, I thought that was, is that an individual? Is that an individual thing?
If you want to add the
It
pictures.
has to be added, the pictures as a separate module?
Well, no, it's not. So the only thing that would be separate in regard to headstone is if you wanted our marker manager, which just tells you what company it came from. It generates a number for the headstone, basically. It gives you the option to input the size, the material. It's like a very specific thing. If you don't need that, then just, you can give me a thumbs down and I know not to put it on there. That's not that. As far as like going into the software and uploading images directly into the core, that's just built into the software because people need it, so it's not some extra. Yeah.
Okay. I think we're about to lose a quorum,
Yeah.
Rodney.
I got to take off.
So
Okay.
I think for practical purposes, maybe get with Melissa, get the numbers together so that we can review them for the things that we've asked for. We can even kind of give her what we want to see, and then if we can have that for our next meeting, it will benefit us, and hopefully we can make a decision
Well, even if we could get that information and
ahead
talk
of time.
about it,
Thanks, Dan.
maybe have a
Yeah.
special meeting just to approve.
Yes, address it.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I will generate that in a line-by-line quote, so I can put what each module, costs. Like I said, the core plus the licensing, and then the mapping, and then I can even make two separate ones, so I can make like a core software versus a optional software one. That's what I was planning on doing, and putting like the public-facing side on that. Or do you just want me to just put one document together for what it would cost for everything for Gavilan that we talked about, and then you can see obviously everything below core you can take off, and then one for Gavilan plus Forest Lawn? Or do you want me to do a core plus optional for both cemeteries? So basically 2 documents versus 4 documents. I'm happy to do whatever's best for you. Just tell
What
me
are you
would
thinking,
like.
Melissa? Is this, what I'm hearing you say is that you want that for Gavilan Canyon for sure.
She wants
But-
I would like it for both.
For both? Okay.
the mapping, the core, the mapping, but you only buy one core regardless. You said it's one core, and then
Yeah.
you'd have 2 modules, one mapping module for Gavilan, one for the other cemetery, correct?
It would actually all be under one system. It just depends on the amount of acres we have to do it for, because the information we have to store, we base it off of acreage. So like if you're, 4.23, like we said for Gavilan now, that would be one thing. And then if you're whatever it was when we combine both together, that would be a slightly different price. Like I said, it wouldn't be double, it would just be a different price. So I can put that all together and make it really clear, and then anything you're not clear on, I can spell out even more. Yeah.
That sounds
That
perfect.
sounds fine, yeah.
Yeah.
If you could get
So,
that would be great.
I will go, so what would you like me to do at this point? And I can go from there.
Put together the proposal for what Melissa was asking for both cemeteries. The only thing you would have to be able to maybe detail out, and a side note, would be maybe the reduction, if there are increases of fees because we've added the second cemetery, maybe out to the side, knowing what that additional fee is by adding the second one. So all we'd have to do is the math to figure out what it would be if we did one. And we know
Yeah.
what the difference is, the
Yeah.
differential there. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I could do that. Yes, 100%. I'm
Okay.
on the exact same page you are. And then if you wanted to do a screen share with me and Melissa, or me and anyone else, I could do that, and that way we can look at it together and answer any questions in a live conversation as well. So just
Okay.
basically like a 15-minute screen share is what's very common with me. Like I'll bring it up on the screen,
Okay.
I'll describe exactly what each line item does, and you can ask any questions at that time, or I can just, if we don't have time for that, I can come up with something else. But whatever makes
We
the
could
most
do
sense.
that prior to the next meeting, just so we got it all prepared for you to present.
Yeah.
And we know it's the way we're asking for it. And I'd be glad
Yes.
to meet with you.
Well, I'd like to get this going as soon as we can, just so that if there is some money available through Parks and Rec or from whatever of those COVID dollars, that we could hire a person to do this summer.
Yeah.
I
think
sat
that
in a
makes perfect
meeting
sense.
the other day and they were talking about those dollars, and it's gonna be a few months before they're even available, so.
Well,
But I'm sure
exactly,
you've
but
gotta get
I
your
think
hand
if you get your
material
hand,
If you want it.
if you get your hand lifted up, because that first batch that came out, there were literally tens of thousands of dollars that were sitting that did not get recognized and then we were down to a deadline to have issued a need for it, and so we lost it.
The village got a pretty significant amount.
I know what they got, and that's my whole point. I think we should get our share. I don't think I'm being tacky saying that. I want you to have what you need, and I want to get the dollars from wherever it needs to come from, other than our back pocket.
Well, and I also think we're trying to be realistic. We know that the manpower's always been an issue. You guys are spread so thin. So to make this kind of an investment in a program like this, we have to have a plan to implement it
Exactly.
at 100%, or we've wasted the money. And so if it means hiring someone, temporarily, we've got to explore that so that we have a real powerful plan to make it work. And,
I
So
can
we-
say that it is pretty common. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say it is pretty common for people to get interns or find volunteers depending on your availability and your location. Like if you're close to a university or a school, or you just want to open up a volunteer board or program. But I think that everything you've all said today does make sense and it is smart. And on my end, I just want to make sure I support you by getting that quote
Okay.
and proposal put together. So I can definitely get that put together within 5 days. Like I said, or at 5 days, that's not a problem. So
okay.
that's where I'll leave it. Yep.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you all. I'll be in touch with you, Melissa, again soon. Rodney and everyone else, thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciated this.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we can't continue with any of the business, and we'll have to carry it over. If we can have a special meeting, we could just carry the remainder of the items.
What is the deal with having a Zoom meeting on something like this? Does it have to be announced and all of that?
It's just like a regular meeting,
Regular meeting?
because you got to let the public know how to access the meeting because, they may be at home and not want to get into the public forum, so, yeah. All municipalities have had to a lot of entities have
I
had.
make a motion that we adjourn.
Yes, there you go.